Hello, this is Dr. Steve Miller, and I am the Subpar Psychologist. Today, it's all about depression. Holy crap! A second episode! If you were able to hear the previous episode, you would have heard the earnest ramblings of someone explaining the reasons for seeking therapy, the barriers that may exist, and how best to find a therapist. All from my perfectly awesome and humble opinion. Of course. Also, you got to witness me in front of a camera for the first time, seemingly trying a little too hard to be funny. And yes, I'm aware, but I went back and I watched the first episode, and I really had the idea that I was going to go back and re-record it. It actually weighed on me that it was to this or to that, or maybe this landed and this other part didn't. And then I said, screw it. This isn't perfect, and I don't need it to be. I'm trying to find my voice in all this, and it's okay if I don't come out of the gate with it. I, I had fun making it, and that's what matters. It's me, some intelligence, but goof and cheese abound. So, if you returned, I appreciate it. And if you lost a bet and this is your first time listening, hey. For this episode, I want to discuss depression and to demystify it a bit. I'd like to give you some basic info, break down what depression actually is and how therapy could help. By the end, I really hope you get depression. Understand depression. All right, I'm doing it again. Although I'm a licensed psychologist, I'm not your personal psychologist. This is not a substitute for therapy or medical advice. It's just a place where I can share what I know in the occasional tangent. That said, if you are having thoughts of suicide, call, chat, or text 988 to reach a Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They are there to help. And like I said in the last episode, I used to work for one, so I know. So here are some facts. According to the World Health Organization, anxiety and depression are the two most common mental disorders in the world. In 2021, the National Institute of Mental Health reported 21 million American adults, or roughly 8.3% of adults in the United States, had at least one major depressive episode. To break down the numbers even further, the highest prevalence of major depressive episodes was found among women, those aged 18 to 25, and those who reported two or more races, with young adults aged 18 to 25 showing a rate of 18.6%, more than double the overall adult average of 8.3% in 2021. For adolescents, 5 million individuals between 12 and 17 years old reported at least one major depressive episode in 2021, which is approximately 20% of adolescents. So it's a big thing, okay? So when it comes to depression, I typically see individuals who are facing situational, episodic, or long-term symptoms. Each can be debilitating or just be an extra weight to make things just that much more difficult in life. Situational depression is something that may accompany a specific life event, such as a job loss, breakup, move. These usually get better once that stressor or circumstance changes, or possibly even through when enough time has passed. These aren't the only ways depression can show up, but for many of the clients I've seen, they're either struggling with major depressive disorder or persistent depressive disorder. I know, what a crappy menu to have offered to someone. The fates are cruel, as if they were to say, "Why, hello, little human. I'm the ghost of shitty mental disorders, and I bestow upon you depression. Do you want the depression that's major and may hit you like a truck made of pure despair, or the one that's persistent and seemingly doesn't go away?" Well, first up, major depressive disorder, or MDD, which is typically more severe and impairing. It can be shorter in duration or come back after it's gone away. The other is persistent depression disorder, or PDD. And this one is typically milder in intensity and less impairing. For both depressions, at their core, low mood is the spirit that drives the two, but with some slight variation. So if you are shopping for a depressive disorder, MDD would like you to add to your cart, at no extra charge, I might add, depressed mood with or without anhedonia, which is a fancy way of saying you are not getting enjoyment out of things. Significant weight loss, gain or loss of appetite or changes, psychomotor slowing, basically feeling physically slowed down or sluggish, feelings of worthlessness or guilt, and recurrent thoughts of death or suicidal ideation or an attempt. Yum. MDD, or major depressive disorders, low mood is nearly every day, whereas PDDs, or persistent depressive disorders, low mood, is for more than half the days. MDD needs to last for at least 2 weeks, while PDD needs to last for at least 2 years. They also overlap with a few symptoms like sleeping too much or not enough, but also for concentration and fatigue. Now, PDD wants you to add to your cart, just for fun, issues with appetite or overeating, with or without weight loss or gain, like you would see in MDD, uh, low self-esteem, and sense of hopelessness. Man, aren't you just wanting a big bucket of depression right about now? I've made it so appealing. Hmm. All right, on to how I look at this. When I'm explaining mood to people, I put it on a scale of zero, 0 to 10. Okay, 0 to 10, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So we in mental health love a good scale. It's really the key to our scientific hearts. Go ahead, talk Likert to me. Whatever. I usually say something like, so if I put someone's mood on a scale, and 0 is very low, down in the dumps, barely getting out of bed, not taking care of themselves, and wondering what's the point of life. 5 is, middle of the road. It's I'm fine, things are fine, the world is fine, etc. 10 looks almost like someone is on drugs. A 10 is for someone who feels beyond fantastic. They feel like they should run for president, train for the summer games, and open a tech startup at the same time. A 10 is basically manic, which I might cover in another episode. So someone in a great mood would be somewhere like a 6 or 7. Major depressive episode is someone who is around the 1 to 3 range and may dip to 0. This person may have repeated depressive episodes where the debilitating or distressing symptoms go away for a while and then return. So they'll kind of go here and then they go back, and then they might return somewhere and return. Or it may only happen once in their life. Someone with persistent depressive disorder is going to have their baseline around like a 3 or 4. They may dip below that to a 1 or 2, which some clinicians call double depression. That is when a major depressive episode sandwiches itself onto a persistent depressive episode. Like imagine you're at the DMV for hours on a hot day and their air conditioner doesn't work, and then one of the DMV employees comes up to you and slaps you in the face with a rubber chicken filled with sand, all to tell you there's only one person to help you, and you're going to have to wait a little longer. That's kind of like what double depression is. Those with PDD may briefly get to a 5, a 5 or a 6, but their mood will typically return to that 3 or 4 range. This person may be pessimistic and just blah. This person will go to work and will do things, but it will take a wind-up period to get started. And even then, they may take or leave the experience. I may be explaining too much, but oh well, here comes some more. The way I see it, someone with MDD may still go to work, but they will really loathe it and find it very difficult to get out of bed and just be down. Someone with PDD will go to work, more shuffle their feet and be meh about it, or kind of like, I'm not excited about work, but I got to do it. I've explained to my clients that depression's signature move is withdrawal. I said anxiety's signature move is avoidance. but that's for another episode. The signature move is it's like Mortal Kombat. Finish him. But instead of a bloody horror, it's withdrawal. Could could you imagine, like, in Mortal Kombat, like Johnny Cage is about ready to finish off a dazed and confused looking Kano, and then he's all ready to like pop off a head, and then he's like, "Yeah, I just want to go home. I'm just not feeling it anymore. Don't worry about calling me. I'll just be in bed feeling sad and lonely." And then he just like walks off the screen with like big blue letters read out, "Depression." That one's free, Ed Boon. You're welcome. So, anybody with MDD may withdraw simply by saying no to being invited out or find an excuse not to go. Somebody with PDD will reluctantly hang out with friends, or it may take some coaxing or a build-up period to get out the door. There's another thing that needs to be mentioned, and that's when people I've worked with who are living with depression may have thoughts that they'd be better off dead, or had thoughts of wanting to die or end their own life. All jokes aside, as if what I was talking about before was so uplifting, this needs to be covered. So I separate out what would be considered non-suicidal morbid ideation, which involves thoughts of death, but is distinct from suicidal ideation. People with non-suicidal morbid ideation have shared thoughts of of going to sleep and not waking up, or that the world would be better off if they were not alive. I've also heard of it as like George Bailey syndrome, like It's a Wonderful Life, like wishing they were never born. Suicidal ideation is more severe, and it involves thoughts of taking one's own life, where non-suicidal morbid ideation is someone saying, "I wish I were dead." Suicidal ideation is someone saying, "I need to make myself dead." And there is greater severity when someone has suicidal ideation with plan and intention. If someone has a plan, they've thought of or have researched what can stop the body from functioning and know what method and means will do this. Intention is someone who has the drive to carry out that plan and has potentially overridden the innate sense of self-preservation. I do want to talk about this in greater detail in the future because it needs to be discussed. It's important. As a psychologist, I've been with the survivors of suicide, whether that's someone who has survived an attempt themselves or friends and family who lost someone. I'm going to say it again. If you or someone you know has thoughts of suicide, call, chat, or text 988, please. If you are having thoughts that you would be better off dead or recurrent thoughts of death, reach out to someone. Some people I've worked with have been scared that they had these thoughts. So talk to a therapist, a parent, trusted friend, someone. If these thoughts are coming to your mind, TTSO, talk that shit out. It's not uncommon for people to have thoughts of death when feeling hopeless. It's one of the possible criteria for depression. Silence, hopelessness, and time make for awful companions. So again, talk that shit out. TTSO, seriously. All right, let's talk about therapy for a moment. Well, I guess this part of the episode wouldn't be complete without a little shameless self-promotion for my own line of work. Sounds like a bad infomercial. Like I just told you all this terrible stuff about depression that may have opened your eyes to your own or someone else's behavior or symptoms, only to say for the end, "And boy, howdy, do me and my oak have the solution for all that ails you." Don't know why that came out as a hillbilly snake oil salesman, but here we are. No backsies. You know, it sounds irresponsible if I don't offer some way forward. Wow, don't mind me. Uh, Space cadet moment complete. So as I said in the last episode, good therapy can come from any therapist. Most important thing is the relationship you have with them. That said, when it comes to depression, there's a lot of options for how best to go about reducing symptoms. For those of you thinking about medications, I'm going to give you the short version. According to research, uh, therapy works, medication works. There's evidence that therapy and medication work better than medication alone. To me, this says therapy with a person needs to be a part of the equation. Whatever the case, if you are thinking of medication, talk to your doctor or prescriber to see what makes sense. There is strong evidence that therapies like CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy are effective at reducing depressive symptoms. CBT has been around for a long time, and there's simply more research behind it. Also, the creator, Aaron Beck, created the Beck Depression Inventory, which is a well-known and widely used measure. Essentially, CBT becomes a gold standard in a way, but there's also evidence that other therapies do just as well. That's good news for me. I didn't want to talk about all the therapies in detail. That sounds like a lot of work. I don't have time for that. I work full time. I'm married with kids. Meh. So the research shows that many treatments for depression perform comparably to one another. So treatments you may or may not have heard of, like acceptance and commitment therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, or behavioral activation therapy, all get the job done similarly to CBT. So for you, dear sub-participant, you don't have to spend a bunch of time researching every therapy to find the right one. You just need to find a therapist if you have depression and want to address it. When I interpret the research, it, it it's such a human thing we do that the relationship itself becomes the healing mechanism, not the therapy style or technique. So find a therapist you like and TTSO. Talk that shit out. All right. That's all I've got for this episode of the Subpar Psychologist. Um, this was a lot to create. We reviewed, symptoms of depression, how it might be evaluated, ways it can be treated, and probably some other cool stuff that I can't recall because I'm tired. Hats off to all of you who came and listened. I'd be curious if this is helpful or enjoyable, or if it might be or might be to someone you know. In any event, the next thing I want to tackle is anxiety. I still have a mind to also discuss other topics in detail, like suicide or suicide prevention, really, masculinity, dissociation, and trauma. So I do look forward to jumping into those topics. Well, as always, be good to yourself. Cheers.